And we are with Dr. Jennifer Gramith. We're going to be talking about our lymphatic system and Lyme. Why? Other than the two L's, what do they have in common? Okay, so now it's time for you to do your part. Make sure that you text and you call and you tag and you email people this link so that you can start helping grow the classroom. Okay, so I'm going to hit the record button so we can get started right away. There's so much to cover, and let me get some things here situated before we go forward, because I want to make sure that we can dance today, because yesterday Dr. Christiane said that dancing and singing, that helps your build your immune system and fight off the COVID people. So I'm going to go ahead and get this started here. And we are going to hit the record button. Here we go. So today we have Dr. Jennifer Gramith, and we are going to learn about the lymphatic system, immune system, and Lyme, and how it works with one another, and how you can work with your body instead of against your body. So fasten your seatbelt, because we're going to learn and grow together. Here we go. It's time to dance, everybody. No.
The Lillian McDermott Show.
We love, we fear, bridges we burn, we make mistakes, then we live and learn. When life gets tough, and it seems like your best ain't good enough. If you're in need of hope, you know where I'll be right here. Right here, and when you need a friend, you can count on me. I'll be right here, waiting for
you. This is the place you can always turn to when you need a friend. The Lillian McDermott Show. To reach out to Lillian, visit her on the web at whenyouneedafriend.com. Now let's all learn together. Here's Lillian McDermott.
Hello, my listening and viewing friend. It's so nice we can meet each other on the air on this beautiful, best day ever. And for those of you who are tuning into the classroom for the first time, please know I've been waiting for you. This is a safe place where you can go to when you need a friend. It is my commitment to provide alternative ways to heal, and it is my mission to provide alternative ways to heal. As I said that, it's my mission to make awareness, responsibility, and truth a part of our everyday life. And I hope you, my listening and viewing friend, will feel empowered to embrace a new truth and live the life of your dreams. Now, today we have back Dr. Jennifer Gramith. All of you absolutely love Dr. Gramith. I have never seen anything like it. You guys, it's the trust that you have for a doctor that listens and uniquely tailors what you need for you, not for 99% of the people, but for the one that 0.001 or 0.1%, whatever you call yourself. And so today we're going to talk about, the fact that Dr. Jennifer Gramith has taught us about the lymphatic system, about the immune system. And now we're going to talk about how does disease like Lyme's disease, the great imitator affects your life. And since it is our sole purpose in life, I'm so grateful that Dr. Jennifer Gramith of Rightway Health and Wellness is here to do just that. Thank you, Dr. Gramith, for coming in today.
Thank you, Lillian. It's always my pleasure.
It's wonderful, Dr. Gramith. You've been coming into the classroom maybe a couple of years now, and you finally did this, made the plunge, and you said, you know what, I want to be a part of this. But everybody loves you. Everybody loves you because they respect the fact that you listen, and you're like, if you don't understand something, you're the first one to say, let's look into it. Let's look into it. So share a little bit about your background and what led you from being classically trained to now being a naturopathic doctor.
Yeah, I think we all have that story of, as practitioners, of how we transition from mainstream allopathic into, a more functional approach. And just like a lot of other practitioners, it had to be a family member, or sometimes it's themselves. But with me, it was my father. My father and his disease and prognosis that we were given was devastating. And I started to research and look into other ways, because allopathic had given us zero hope. They sent him home to die. He had non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. I was a nurse at the time. I was devastated. I became a nurse because I wanted to help people, and family was priority. And I couldn't help my father. And he was very young. I mean, he was in his first diagnosis was in, I think, late 40s. And he, late 40s, early 50s. And then, that's how old I am. So I can't even imagine the devastation of getting that prognosis of, oh, I'm sorry, we've done everything. When he thought going in, as long as he did what the doctors told him, that he would, be okay. Well, he wasn't, and it destroyed his heart, and they gave him less than 2 months to live. And I started researching by the help of my medical director, who suggested to me, Jennifer, why don't you try alternative medicine? I thought it was crazy because I had no training in it. I knew nothing about it. I thought it was nuts, because if it was valid, I would of course learned about it already in school. And
sure.
And so, which is, same story. Every healthcare practitioner goes through this. And we think we know it all until we realize we know very little about the human body. And so, and how it works. And I've been doing this for 25 years, Lillian, and I learn stuff every day. And so I can imagine how overwhelming it is for our clients and patients when, they're trying to figure out, and they feel this urgency. I got to figure this out really quickly. And they feel like, they have all the cards are stacked against them. And so that's really my passion, is to help people kind of figure out what's going on, what caused it, get to the root cause of whatever disease process that they're, dealing with or trending towards, as we've talked about in the past. And so, I think that's why people can relate with me, because, I know what it's like to walk down that journey, to be panicked, to try to figure out as quickly as possible what's going on. And there's so much information out there. And it's not that it's not good information. I mean, there's good and bad, but there's just so much. So where do you start? And so that's my job, is to help you figure out where to start.
But you help in a way that it's a partnership. You're not telling people what to do.
No, because I believe the true meaning of a doctor is a teacher. And so we're there not to dictate and say, do this, do that. We're there to listen, number one, and to meet them where they are. Because, if they can't do what we're asking them, then we're both failures. It's not just them, it's me too. So I have to walk along with them in that journey and determine what they can handle along with their input. They typically tell you what they are willing to do and what they can tolerate. And so we have to work in that arena. We can't just put everybody on a juice fast like I would love to do for 30 days. But so everybody's different. Every case is different, and especially dealing with Lyme. Lyme is very complex. It's a lot like cancer. Cancer is not one disease. It's a complex of multiple diseases. Lyme is very complicated, and it's not easy to diagnose. It's not easy to treat as practitioners, because every client with Lyme has different symptoms. And
having different symptoms, and I want to start there, because I've had many doctors come into the classroom saying that if you're healthy, something that will, attack your body or invade it, whichever way assault your body, depending on how you achieve the bacteria or whatever. If your immune system is built and strong and you have a healthy immune system, chances are it's going to be different for me than the next person that would be coming in to see you. So what is the role of the lymphatic system when it comes to our immune system?
Right. So your lymphatic system, as most of you have heard me talk about in the past, is your structure that holds your immune system. And so when the lymphatic system is overwhelmed, it's congested, the fluid is thick, the T cells, B cells, macrophages that are supposed to be circulating throughout the lymphatic system doesn't move. It's very slow. And so your response time to these invaders, whether it's, Borrelia or other co-infections, isn't good. And so it allows it to take over. And it typically, Lyme will go to the weakest areas of the body. So in some people, it goes to the brain, and others, it can attack the heart or the digestive system. There was a doctor I met years ago from China that believed that there was a link between Lyme and cancer, because she went back and she started testing her cancer patients, and it was cancer all over the board. It wasn't one particular type of cancer, and a high percentage of them tested positive for Lyme. So she's thinking, well, is that why they developed cancer? It very well could be, because their immune system was so distracted with trying to combat all this inflammation caused from the co-infections and the Lyme, that the cancer was undetected and was able to flourish. And so that could be, the case too. And I have seen that in 25 years I've been working with clients.
Yeah. And it's so hard for a clinician to step forward and say, ooh, there's a link here, because the first thing they're going to do is they're going to assassinate their character, make fun of them, call them names,
right.
And then 50 years later, 100 years later, we'll discover they were right. And so that has happened so many times. Now with Lyme's, you said at the beginning that it's very difficult to treat or to diagnose. So
right.
What are some of the things that you do to kind of isolate that? Maybe somebody is like having symptoms, and Dr. Richard Horowitz has said many times that Lyme's is the great imitator. So you think you might have this, but in reality, it's Lyme's. How do you isolate, yes, this is Lyme's?
Yeah. So, typically the only way allopathically is through blood test. Unfortunately, the blood test is not very accurate.
Yeah.
And so, we typically go with doing the blood test, of course, to try to see if anything shows up. And then the Zyto biofeedback testing will give us an idea if it's a high probability. I'm looking at some new Russian technology called the AO scanner, where it goes into great detail and then also can pinpoint where it's attacking. And so there are those biofeedback type testing that we can do. It's not a diagnostic tool per se, but it can give you an idea if that is, a probability. So that's what I would go with. Then you go with the client's symptoms that they're having. But, truly, you go to an allopathic doctor, and this is the story. Here's the Lyme story. Patients come in, they say, Dr. Jen, I have been to 15 different doctors, and they bring their charts this big, and they pretty much rule them out as a psychiatric patient, because they can't find anything with the types of tests that they're running. They're not finding anything. And then if the patient brings up, what do you think it's Lyme? The doctor will look at them like, are you from Lyme, Connecticut? Have you, like that, it's isolated, there, which we know is not true. Lyme disease, yes, comes from, it's a tick infection, but it also sand fleas and mosquitoes, and there's other sources, and it's all over. It's an epidemic itself. And so we all have exposures to it. Okay. I've not tested one person that didn't have one co-infection of Lyme in their system.
Wow.
And so it's about where your immune system is when you have that infection. Okay, so if you have a strong, healthy immune system, your T cells will destroy it. I mean, it takes care of it. We are inundated with thousands of bacteria and viruses and, parasites and things every day. And so as long as our immune system is functioning, it typically can handle it. It doesn't develop into a disease process.
Mm-hmm.
But when your immune system's down because you're so stressed out at work, or your body is in a state of inflammation and angst all the time, then your immune response goes down because your lymphatic system becomes so congested. And so then all of a sudden you have the exposure, because you can't get it if you don't have the exposure, that you have the exposure to it. And then your immune system is compromised. And so it doesn't recognize it. And then it gets to be so much of an issue, and it's already damaged so many areas before you may get an immune response eventually, but a lot of times you don't. And so that's when it leads to the disease, which can, show itself with chronic fatigue, which is very common. But, doctor will usually just give you a B12 injection and you still don't feel better, and so these poor patients, they go from doctor to doctor with all these different symptoms. And I can understand how frustrating it is for allopathic practitioners, because you can't put it in a category. If you have an upper respiratory infection, you have this symptom, and okay, look at upper respiratory, infections. But Lyme is so complex. Some people will have muscular issues. Some people will have mental issues. Some people will have gut issues. Most of them have pain, but it can be anywhere in the body. And so it's, just doesn't fit into our nice, neat little boxes that, have our diagnosis in it. So
Yeah.
this isn't this, is that, and so they just kind of throw up their hands and say, okay, I don't know what's wrong with you. Obviously, maybe it's just mental illness. Maybe you just think that you have these symptoms, and that's very frustrating for me, for people not to get any answers. And then they start questioning, am I crazy? Do I really feel this? Are they right? And family members will turn on them as well. And, because they just get tired of them complaining and having pain, and nobody can fix it. Nobody knows what they're talking. And so you feel isolated.
Yeah.
And, that's the last thing that we should do to these patients.
Well, not only that, do they look sick? I mean, does a Lyme's the person that has Lyme's disease, do they look sick, or do they look normal? Because now one of the things that Dr. Richard Horowitz had mentioned is that an indicator is the pain they have is moving. It is not in one place all the time. It's moving.
Right.
So then people think, oh, you're just crazy.
Yeah. Or you're just diagnosed with fibromyalgia, which is kind of a catch-all of, if
We don't know
can't
what you
explain
have.
it.
Yeah.
It's that. And that's true. So a lot of times they don't look physically, sick, as far as, gray skin and, just like a sick person. Well, they're young. I mean, you see 16, 17-year-olds coming in, and they're just, they look healthy as far as their weight, but they feel terrible. And so, it's really hard. I think because they don't have a lot of times they don't have like a physical wound or rash, or, something that shows up so someone can physically see. It's all internal.
Yeah.
And it's confusing.
Yeah. And for those of you who want to reach out to Dr. Jennifer Gramith, she is in Woodstock, Georgia. It's called Rightway Health and Wellness, but you can call from anywhere in the world, because she does take calls as well. The number is 404-474-2100. Now, a couple of things I want to share. Dr. Jen, for the 10-year anniversary of the Lillian McDermott Radio Show classroom donated 3 Dr. Jen's Immunoblend. And we gave away 1 for people that were watching live, and 2 will be given away at the end of the month on May 30th or whatever the last day of the month is. I think it's Monday, May 31st. So if you want Dr. Jen's Immunoblend, we have 2 that we're giving away. Also, if you mention the Lillian McDermott Radio Show classroom when you call, you get 20% off all your purchases. This is Dr. Jennifer Gramith's gift to you. She doesn't have to do any of that, but she wants to make sure that you are rewarded for listening and learning and growing with us as well. So Dr. Gramith, I am so grateful to you for everything that you do to support the classroom. I'm glad that I'm able to say that. So if you guys want one of them, again, what you do is you put Dr. Jen's Blend, text me at 407-373-5959, 407-373-5959. Text me, claim that you want your health back wherever you're watching from, whether you're listening later on podcast, text me, just want you to get your health back and request Dr. Jen's Immunoblend. What is the Dr. Jen's Immunoblend? What does it do?
So it's an antimicrobial, so it helps with any kind of infection pathogen. And it is essential oils, so it's really bioavailable. It will be absorbed very rapidly. It comes in liquid, so a lot of people will do the liquid for periodontal disease or any gum issues. They'll swish it around, and then
they'll drink it.
They'll drink it, and then there's the capsules. So it is a strong taste to it, but really, really good for any kind of periodontal disease. And then I'll take this. And one thing this has helped me with is balancing blood glucose. And so you wouldn't think that the bacteria in the gut could affect necessarily your glucose levels, but those of us who struggle with prediabetes or diabetics that are type 2, typically it's a lot of the dysbiosis in the gut. And so you knock down that infection. The pancreas doesn't have to work as hard. The blood sugars level out. Because I kept having issues with it wanting to go, borderline diabetes. And I would take a lot of different, glucose balance or cinnamon, and it just maybe helped it a couple of points, but nothing like I needed. So this brought it down to the optimal levels, 75, usually about 76 every morning fasting. Wow. So that is optimal. And so I was really kind of surprised at how well that worked, but it does, as you study the gut and the gut health and the inflammation, that's your, part of your defense system against Lyme. You got to get the gut healed, or you're not going to be able to battle your Lyme, right? Yeah. Because you're constantly creating an environment of inflammation in the body. And so using that with Dr. Zach Bush's Ion Gut Health to help, heal the tight junctions back, and has worked wonderfully.
That's amazing. Tuesday we had Dr. Levy, Dr. Thomas Levy in the classroom, and we talked about vitamin C and the importance of vitamin C in building our immune system, but also hydrogen peroxide. And you mentioned that people take Dr. Jen's Immunoblend, and swish it around their mouth. How does hydrogen peroxide compare as well? I mean, is that something that you use?
I do.
For treatment?
I do. Yeah, most definitely. A lot of times when I see that clients have a lot of infection in their sinuses or in their lungs, I'll have them nebulize hydrogen peroxide. It's another antimicrobial. Yeah. And so it's going to kill those pathogens. And that's what we're trying to do. You can't wipe completely out all of the pathogens, but it's about the balance. Okay. Yeah. You can't have so much infection in the body that it overwhelms your immune system, because that's what leads to the chronic disease process. And so you're trying to just keep that knocked down to where your immune system can tolerate it, can handle it. And you're not symptomatic. And we're all struggling right now. It's all about the terrain of the body. And so if your terrain, and most of us have this issue with all the EMFs, with all the environmental toxins, the heavy metals, we gum up our endocrine system, we congest up our lymphatic system, and the immune system is just blindsided. And so it is unable to fight these things off. So we do need to assist it, but we really need to look at our life and our lifestyle and look at, okay, what is it in my life that is causing this? Because everybody's so different. There's basic principles. We all have the exposure to the environmental, but what else is it? How much of it is emotional? How much of it is environmental? Am I putting on aluminum-based deodorant every day and blocking up my axillary lymph nodes, which are, one of the regional lymph drainage sites? That I see that a lot, and that's why you have an increase of breast cancer even in men. And so
that is a myth. Men think that they don't get breast cancer.
They do. Yep. I get patients every month that are men with breast cancer, and it's more common in women, but I don't know that will be for long. What's concerning to me is that right now the rapid age of breast cancer is between age 17 and 30. That's growing. And I was talking to a cancer patient this morning, and she was sharing with me just her frustration of, dealing with the oncologist. And, there was so many young women in the office. One had just had a double mastectomy. She's 28 years old and left there. And it really affected her, but it didn't seem to affect the doctors, and wondering, why is this young girl dealing with this? What is the cause? It's not, I can tell you this, it's not due to a lack of surgery, radiation, or chemotherapy. And so to me, that's not the answer. Yeah.
Well, I think that's very important, very important. And by the way, for those of you who noticed, I've got a little bit of a hoarse, or somebody said I sounded sexy, but I disagree with that one. But it's because I have been nebulizing, and Dr. Jen said that because it dries out. Can you explain that again?
So it's going to dry out a little bit of the mucosal lining and the bronchioles and cause a little bit of hoarseness. It's fine.
Is there anything I can do to re-mucosa my throat?
Well, you can drink, well, not with you because you're sensitive to aloe right now, but aloe is one that I do use. I would just drink water,
I've been drinking water.
And once you stop it, it will go back to normal.
Yeah. So, I want you guys to know that I truly believe what we bring into the classroom. And this isn't, I really researched this stuff. And so I'm just really excited that Dr. Jen is here today. I want to make sure that you know that if you're interested in Dr. Jen's Immunoblend, 2 of you can get it for free if you text me at 407-373-5959 and claim Dr. Jen's Immunoblend. And that giveaway will be on May 31st, which is a Monday. And also, you can also go to rightwayhealthandwellness.com if you want to buy it, because if you want to buy it, you can get it today. And or actually you can order it today, and you can go to her website. Is there a place in your website, Dr. Gramith, that you can go to and download it? Is
not yet, but there will be within probably the next month. There will be an online e-commerce site that you can get it, but you can just go to and fill in the web contact and just say, I want this, and they will contact you.
Okay. Or they can call 404-474-2100. That's 404-474-2100. Okay. So today we're talking about Lyme disease, right? And so a long time ago, you never, ever heard of Lyme's at all. And so because I do so many different classes, and I asked for your permission to see if you're willing to do some, talk about this. But I've been, when you look at the vaccines today, children get 72 vaccines before they graduate from high school. And people, adults or and some even younger, are encouraged to get the flu shot. And as I understand from Dr. Judy Mikovits, these vaccines hold viruses from animals. And especially, you know, if they're testing this on a guinea pig, if they're testing this on a rat, or these are viruses that are in animals that are okay for animals, but once transferred to a human can cause all sorts of issues. Have you discovered an increase in these, you know, crazy, like I got bit by a tick when I was a kid all the time, and I don't have anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, with the Lyme, it's an epidemic. And so, you know, that's what's so frustrating. We're trying to look at, you know, and determine why that is. And I'm sure that, you know, there is validity with what you just talked about, because I see that the vaccines have compromised the immune system because of the preservatives that they use in there. So, you know, and it's just gotten worse and worse with the materials that they're putting into these vaccines that's never been tested on humans. And so you're basically, you're the trial, you know, they're testing it on you. And I don't want to be the guinea pig, but I do see the damage that it does to the lymphatic system. And just recently, it's been quite jaw-dropping. I had a cancer patient that was doing extremely well. Actually, she was dual diagnosis, Lyme and cancer, doing extremely well, markers down, feeling great, decided to get the vaccine. And I wasn't aware of that. And then when she came back in for a retest, it was ridiculous how much inflammation. I don't know how long that's going to last, but I know it went from a optimal range of less than 4 as far as her Zytos test in her labs, to her labs looking like she was full-blown, you know, disease process, inflammation markers higher than I've ever seen them. And then the range on the Zyto went from below 4 to over 50. That's huge.
Wow.
And just in
2 weeks?
Yeah, just in
You're talking about the shot, right? The shot.
Right.
That's it's not what
what
they're calling it. Yes. Okay, got it. That's amazing. That is amazing. I want everybody to, if they want to do it, you know, they've been warned. They've been warned. But if there's one person that is on the fence, do the research, read all the ingredients, listen to Dr. Jen. I mean, it's just been incredible. You know, we did a private BitChute conversation with Dr. Christiane Northrup yesterday, and she just blew me away at all the things that they're collecting that no one knows about. It's not in the media, not in the media. And so, you know, I want to encourage all of you to go to whenyouneedafriend.com, because as I said, the algorithms, everything is being distorted. And the only way that we're going to be able to get this information out is by all of us pulling together. So I want you, if you haven't done it already, go to whenyouneedafriend.com. Please subscribe. And while you're there, please like and follow all my social media, including BitChute, because we're trying to build that up because of they won't censor us. But I love this platform, and I'm grateful that we have this opportunity to share interactively with one another, as well as record and you can watch it at any time for yourself. But I want you, while you're there, I want you to go to my sponsors page, sponsors like Keep Me Safe Organics, the First Alternative Therapy, the Pharmacy in Merritt Island, also Rightway Health and Wellness. If I mentioned, you can go to rightwayhealthandwellness.com if this is something that you want for yourself, or you can call yourself and speak to one of the practitioners with Dr. Gramith's practice Rightway Health and Wellness. The number is 404-474-2100. Also, you can check out my affiliate sponsors. We have water that's, over the counter where you don't have to even install it. It's over the counter reverse osmosis, and you get 10% off there when you get it. So ground therapy, brain tap, First Alternative, Avazia, and my B3 bands that I just absolutely love. For the first time in a long time, I'm building muscle with 2 pounds and in 15 minutes. So that's my whole workout. And so figure out ways that you can support my sponsors the way that they're supporting the classroom. Finally, you can become an enrolled student. And thank you for all you enrolled students that are donating to the classroom. That's helping us grow, because as we get more censorship, the costs increase to get this information out. So you guys, I'm just so thrilled. So you can donate $1 or $1,000, or you can donate your time, your talent, or your treasure. So in any way that you can help out, we thank you. And again, Rightway Health and Wellness.com. Dr. Jennifer Gramith is committed to teaching you to be your own medical detective, to be your own MD, and to use her as a partner. And so I want to let you know that there's a class that she's doing on June 2nd. Would you like to share a little bit, Dr. Gramith?
Yeah, so one of the biggest things that I see people struggle with is, that they go into the doctor's office and they have been going for years and getting their regular exams with their blood work, and doctor says, you're good, everything's fine. And now you have thyroid disease. Now you have, cancer now. And so it's like a shock. It's like everything. So it wasn't fine. Mm-hmm. And so this is a class to teach our clients how to look at their labs and understand what it means, because doctors they have limited amount of time. It's not that they don't want to, it's that they only have a short period of time. They can't explain to you, they can't take that time and explain to you what these values mean, but I can. And I can help you to see when you're trending towards a process, whether it's acute or whether it's chronic, and how to read your own lab. So this is a 6 weeks course. It's an hour a week at lunch, Eastern Standard Time, noon to 1, and then I'll take some questions. But where we'll be dissecting labs so that you understand what it means to be in the optimal range and why you should be there and what it's associated with. So let's say, for instance, you have lymphocytes and they're increased. What does that mean as far as my health? And what do I do about it, before it gets to that level? Yeah. So it's just a class that can really help you to help yourself plus your family, and to just go in, prepared and educated when you meet with your doctor. Yeah. And what to do, because, like I said, I worked in that field for years and I love it. I'm grateful for my knowledge from it. And most doctors and nurses, they want to help patients, but we are limited in what we were trained. As far as health and wellness, they're not trained in how to be healthy. They're trained in how to treat your symptoms. Mm-hmm. And so it's a different mindset. And so if you truly want and seek health and wellness, then you're going to have to become your own advocate, and you're going to have to really study, and you're going to have to know your body, and to know your body, you need to be able to read these values.
Yes. And nobody knows our body like we do. Yep. Like we do. And God created our body so perfect that, that it is so forgiving that all we have to do is just tweak it a bit and it will just align itself so beautifully, but we just need to know what to do. So earlier you had mentioned, Dr. Gramith, about the lymphatic system. And I know that many times you have mentioned that 75% of the lymphatic system is in the gut. Did I get that?
70 to 80% is in the gut. And so that's why it's so important to have a good, healthy gut terrain. And so that's why you hear Dr. Zach Bush talk about the biome of the gut. And you'll hear other physicians really, get into what's going on in the gut and how we digest. And then you have so many cases with SIBO, and it is an epidemic. It's rarely that I see a person come in that doesn't have some degree of dysbiosis, to the very severe, and they can't even tolerate any food. They react to everything. And so that is a sign of your immune system's function here and your toxic burden is here. And so we have to whittle that down and get it below what your immune system can handle, whether your immune system's only functioning at 20%, 30%, 50, 100. You have to always keep that ratio where the burdens are below what it can tolerate. And so I usually tell my clients is, they get frustrated. Well, my husband eats whatever he wants. He smokes. He's never sick. I watch everything. I'm so careful. And then why am I dealing with this illness? And it was because they were born with a more compromised immune system where it may have been functioning here. So it didn't take as long for them to meet, that burden.
Yeah.
And so, we can't necessarily strengthen their immune system back up to 100% or even 80 or something, but we can definitely keep the burden below what their immune system can handle, and they can live a life free of disease. And so that's what you've got to focus in on. The husband, it will catch up. It always catches up.
It always catches up. You always reap what you sow.
Get off the hook. Yeah.
No one gets away with it. I don't care who you are.
That's
no one gets
true.
away. And that's the example. Okay. This is the mentality of the addict.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I know somebody that lived 100 years and they smoked, they drank, they ate terrible foods. And that's their one example.
Yeah.
That's their one example.
But that's
Do you
not
know
you,
them?
is what I say.
Do you know them? That's what I want to know. Okay,
Exactly.
so now I don't know if I haven't told you this, but you know Karen Walsh, right?
Yeah.
So Karen Walsh is one of your students.
Mhm.
And after we're done today, because for those of you who have questions, you need to ask your question now, because we're not going to have a big teacher's pet corner or long, because both of us have things to do. But I listened to Dr. Jennifer Gramith, and I'm going to get a lymphatic massage today by Karen Walsh. So can you share a little bit about this assisted lymphatic therapy?
Right. Yeah. So that was when I became a functional practitioner, started working more and more with Lyme patients, cancer patients, people chronically ill. I kept running into this brick wall. It's like I would get so far with diet and supplements, and then they would start to digress, and it was frustrating for me. And when you are throwing a huge supplement protocol with a Lyme patient, they would react to everything. They are so super sensitive. And so I knew that they had to have these things in order to get well, but they couldn't tolerate it. And so I started looking and started researching things that could help. And I reached out to Dr. Cowden. I reached out to Dr. Thomas Crowley. And I said, what am I missing? I'm following all of your protocols. What am I missing? And he said, Jennifer, are you addressing the lymphatic system? And I said, well, I think so. I'm giving them homeopathics. I'm doing certain teas and things like that. He said, no, with these types of cases, you really have to decongest the lymph. I said, how do I do that? And so Dr. Thomas Crowley actually sent me in a piece of equipment that was from Australia that I started using on my clients that consist of 3 inert gases, or actually, I think it was 2 inert gases. And so the inert gases were designed to, when applied to the skin through a bulb that's excited by electrical current, it was designed to dissolve the congestion. And so I used that for a while, and it was very successful, but it wasn't a very eye-appealing type device. It looked like it was put in, together in somebody's garage. And so I was ashamed to, and that's pride, to use it with my doctor friends. And so I started searching for others. And that's when I met Sky David. And Sky David is the scientist, the genius that has developed many inert gas ionization devices over the years. And he developed the XP2 for me. I also wanted the ability, because I'm a lymphedema specialist, so I work with a lot of lymphedema patients that's really fibrotic. So that's like breaking up rock. So I needed something that was stronger. And so Sky developed the XP2, which has 3 gases, argon, krypton, and xenon gases, to decongest the lymph, to help to balance the hormones, but have the flexibility of going very superficially or very deep, like a jackhammer in those cases where I have to break up the fibrosis. And it helped with these clients almost immediately. It took my success rate from about a 35% success rate, which is better than, what we saw in allopathic medicine, which is about 3-4%, to a 75 and 85% success rate with latter stage cancer. And then I started using it later with Lyme patients, and I started to see that their symptoms and the reactions decreased. I was able to give them the supplements without them reacting to it. And it would take away their pain because it dissolves inflammation. And so I started seeing all these different correlations. I then started using it with autistic children and trying to see how they responded. And what was beautiful about them is because they can't really verbally tell you a lot of times of how they feel, but you can tell by their behavior that you took away the pain. They didn't have to take near the amount of supplements to get absorption as they did. And that's one big thing that I have seen, is that I don't necessarily have to put them on such a huge protocol, all of these clients, because they're getting absorption now. And so, with the autistic children's was the first time was my aha moment. I was able to reduce their supplement load, some of the cases more than 70%, and get better results. Wow. And so I see that with, all chronic disease. So that's very important, because number one, it's cost effective. You don't want to have to spend a fortune if you're not absorbing it. If you're not getting the benefit from it, you just have expensive urine. So with the assisted lymphatic therapy, it decongest the lymph to get rid of that, but it also circulates those nutrients to where they should be in the body. So it nourishes the body. And so you get, the double the benefit.
Well, I'm going to go today after the class. I'm going to go get my own massage or my assisted lymphatic therapy, because, after I had my surgery and I have all these scars from the surgery, I thought, this is going to be really good to clear that, as well as any toxic load. I've been listening to you, and I know that Karen was taught by you the best. Now, if somebody that lives in other areas, because you've trained people from all over the world, how can they find someone that you approve?
Yeah, so it'll be on my website. You'll go to Rightway Health and Wellness, and then just look at affiliates, and it'll show you where to click on where you live, and it'll give you a list of all of the practitioners in your area.
Yeah. So what are other things that you can do when it comes to the Lyme disease, that you do, other than, you talked about supplements a little bit, but are there any supplements that people can take for this?
Yeah, so it's ideally you want to work with a functional practitioner, get tested, so we can see the complexity of what's going on in your body. And so, because if you have like high heavy metals, it doesn't do you any good to take an antimicrobial when you have to get rid of the metals. It blocks you from getting the bacteria. But in general, most people will take Cemento or the Nutrimetics products. Teasel is kind of a generic product that they've used for years for acute and chronic Lyme with success. But like I said, it's such a complex disorder that you really need a lot of, you need the testing, at least the Zyto biofeedback.
Yeah. And Zyto, they can get Zyto with you anywhere in the world.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. I work with, practices all over. You can do it from the, privacy of your own home. You just have to set it up with my office. We do telewellness, just like telemedicine. So
Yeah, you focus on the wellness part.
I focus on the wellness.
So, is there anything about Lyme's that you need for us to know that perhaps maybe we haven't discussed yet?
Well, I think just understanding, number one, that you're not crazy and your symptoms are real, and you need to listen to your body. And one thing that a lot of Lyme patients struggle with is the cognition, the brain fog. It's very helpful for functional practitioners if you will write down the symptoms, or have a family member write down all of the symptoms that you're having, the times of day that you're having them. Keep a food log so we can see how things trigger you. If you come in with that information for your practitioner, then they can determine the right protocol for you much quicker. Okay. And so that's very helpful, but know that there is hope. And, I've never had a case that you could not help, you could not recover from. So it seems so hopeless because you're just, number one, you're confused, you're in all this pain, you have all the symptoms. It just seems like it's never going to get better, but it can and it will. You just have to be patient, and you have to go through the process. And if you go to a practitioner and they tell you, if they just start throwing antimicrobials at you and antibiotics, and they're not testing for the heavy metals and all the other stuff, that's not the right doctor for you.
Mm-hmm.
You need to know what's going on in your body. You need to know what toxins have you been exposed to, and then you can start to detox there's a process of detoxification that has to be done, and it's different with every Lyme client.
Yeah.
And so if you're going through and you're going through like this assembly line and you're doing the same thing everybody else is doing, it's probably not going to be successful.
No.
It may be, but it more than likely is not.
That's great. That's great advice. When people have a mystery disease, for example, and a mystery illness, it does take a toll emotionally, but there's usually an emotional component anyway to that disease. Would you like to share a little bit about that?
Yeah, most definitely. And Lily, that I have studied the emotions, and I started seeing early on in my career that every chronic disease process, the root was emotional. And how much of it was, a part of it could be 50%, it could be 100%, it could be 75% of that. And so you're going to have a reoccurrence if you don't deal with that, if you don't pull that root. Right. And so the emotions associated with Lyme can be very vast because it's very complex. And a lot of the symptoms that you have kind of indicate what emotion is attached to that. And so that's why the symptoms list is very important to us, because we can start to pair that with the emotion associated and, bring it to the awareness of our client. And they're like, wow, yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly what happened to me. And it's astonishing. So, bringing it from the subconscious mind to the conscious mind, that sometimes that's enough. That's all you have to do, and it releases it. So.
It's amazing. People don't believe. I remember Dr. Lee Cowden came into the classroom. He said, if you heal the trauma, or if you heal that emotion, the body will align itself pretty cheaply. But if you refuse to work on the emotional aspect of that, then it's going to cost a lot of money to get you well.
Amen. That's so true. That is so true.
So
that is the hardest thing, though. People don't want to deal with that emotional component.
You know why? Because they hear it's all in your head. That's not what it means. It means that there's a trapped emotion that has manifested into dis-ease. There's a
Right.
difference between it's all in your head. No, that's not what it is. Today, we talked with Dr. Jennifer Gramith about Lyme disease. If you have any questions, we're going to have like a short little teacher's pet corner afterwards. And if you can ask your questions, type in a Q, write your questions down. If something triggered you or you have any questions for Dr. Jen, she is available, but we're not going to do very long because we usually get started talking and then we can go on for a long time. But for those of you who want to learn more, you can go to rightwayhealthandwellness.com. The phone number is 404-474-2100. And you can ask for that 20% off whatever you do with Dr. Jen. You will get it off if you mention the Lillian McDermott Radio Show classroom. So, it's up to us. We have got to take our health back. We get to do this. And I am so grateful to you, Dr. Gramith, that you have partnered up with the classroom to share and teach so that people can learn and grow. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
And for those of you who are watching, make sure if you have any questions, type your Q in, ask your questions. We get it right away so we can go. And please remember, be your own MD, your own medical detective. This is Lillian McDermott and Dr. Jennifer Gramith wishing you love, peace, joy, and unexpected abundance. Make it the best day. Make it the best day ever. I knew my voice was going to get me.
The opinions and advice expressed on the Lillian McDermott Radio Show are intended for the individual callers and guests on the program and are presented to our wider audience solely for general educational purposes. Please act responsibly and consult personally with your own medical, psychological, or nutritional expert before taking any steps to improve your life.
That was funny. I was trying to get it out of I was like stuck there.
Yeah. No worries.
But it's gonna, you know what? I'm thinking I'm gonna take some honey. I've got some local honey, and maybe I'll just have it put it in my throat to give it a little bit of moisture. But let me tell you, it's a lot of questions here, or I mean, it's a lot of questions that people have when they are in the moment. It could be fearful, and I know that many doctors use the tactic of fear to control and manipulate you. So now's the time to ask the question to prevent it. I mean, how important is prevention, Dr. Gramith?
I mean, it is one of the most important things, I think, and that's one reason I wanted to teach people how to just look at their lab values, because you can prevent very easily with just a few tweaks in your diet and lifestyle. You can prevent cancer, you can prevent heart disease. It's very costly when you're dealing with the disease process and you're trying to reverse it. And I totally agree. I mean, Dr. Cowden has been my mentor, as you know, for 17 plus years. And we've told us that as students of ACIM and professors working with him for years. And I have seen it. I've seen it in my practice every day. And so, I've had cases where they couldn't afford to do the protocol. They would deal with the emotions because they, believed in that and that resonated with them. They would do the emotional work. And then, just like you said, their body followed suit. Yeah. And when you deal with that emotional root, you make better choices. Mm-hmm. You don't put things in your body that that's going to trigger inflammation. Mm-hmm. And so I think, if we could get people there, if you could get them to deal with the emotional root first and foremost, then, there would be a lot of therapies and supplements and things that they didn't necessarily need, but they need it because they don't do that.
Correct. So. Oh, and I want to remind everybody, we set the date September 17th through 19th is the next I Am the Solution workshop. And we also have all the I Am the New Truth series, 100 lessons from the Exodus and the Book of Revelation. So check it out on my website as well. We have other questions. And this is from Shanaz, and he has a question about lymphatic massage relevant to muscular dystrophy. So this lymphatic massage, how does it help and how is it relevant to muscular
Right.
dystrophy?
So any autoimmune disease is going to be benefited by assisted lymphatic therapy. And so MD, I actually had a case years ago. My very first MD case was out of Chicago, and her and her sister both had it. And her sister did traditional mainstream, and she had went to a raw vegan diet, and she was doing well, but she started to digress. And so that's when I met her. We started a lymphatic therapy on her, and she just perked right back up, and she started responding. She was continued to be getting stronger and stronger. Her muscles would not go weak. Her sister was in a wheelchair, and she was adopting a child from out of the country. I think it was a 2-year-old running around chasing this 2-year-old. And I remember a day that she called me and she said, Jennifer, I woke up and my muscles went weak this morning. I'm thinking, what? You know, we've had years without her having any muscle deterioration. And I knew that she followed the diet, you know, she was anal about that. And so I knew it wasn't that. And I asked her, I said, have you changed anything? And she said, no. And so I ran the biofeedback test on her.
The Zyto?
Yeah, the Zyto test on her. And it showed that she had a sensitivity to avocados. And I'm like, wow, you're sensitive to avocados. And she said, oh my God, I eat like 7 to 10 of those a day because that was
protein.
Yeah, and fat.
Yeah.
And so it kept her from losing too much weight. And so once we neutralized her sensitivity to that, she was fine. And I mean, within a day of staying off the avocados, she, you know, had full strength again.
Amazing.
So that's why I say it's important, because these autoimmune disorders are very complex. And so you really need a team working with you, because things are going to arise as your body is healing itself. I mean, the first step, Lillian, is you've got to remove what's in your environment that created the disease process. Okay. Disease doesn't fall out of the sky, hit us on the head, and then we have it. It's something that we've created in our environment. And so we need to figure out what it is. And then you start to detox from that. And then you have to nourish the body back to health. So you can't detox and then not put the good nutrition and think that you're going to get healthy. That's not the way it works. But you detox, you nourish, and then you rebuild your health. And that's the case in everybody. But how that looks is different for everyone. So I would encourage that caller about the MD to, you know, get these types of testing done to see what is the next layer. It sounds like they've probably done some work around it, but they need to see what's the next layer, what's the next level that I need to get to.
Well, I mean, we talked last time you were on about checking the IgG and IgE levels and testing food sensitivities, which is what you're talking about right now.
Right.
And so for those of you who are interested in learning more with Dr. Gramith, again, you can contact her at 404-474-2100. And the Zyto can be done from far away. So if somebody's out of the country, how do they get the cradle?
Yeah, so it's shipped to them.
It's shipped
so
to
they
them?
just have to have internet access, a PC, and then they will have the cradle.
Yeah.
And then typically when it's a really complex case and a chronic case, I will want to look at labs too. So I want to see lab scans, any testing that you've already done. There may be other things like the food sensitivity and allergy testing, which is a blood test, but it's looking at 4 different factors of the immune system, not just the IgG and the IgE. And so it's giving you a more broader picture of what's going on with their immune system. And that's very important with dealing with autoimmune.
Yeah. There's a question here, but I don't know if it's a question or not. There's a question mark. So I'm just going to go ahead and say, I just jumped in here. So I didn't hear the details preceding the emotional component. Is the lymphatic therapy to which you're referring the same as that from MLD practitioners?
No. So manual lymphatic therapy is a manual massage done by your hand. So that's
do you have those little
I don't have it with me. Yeah,
Okay.
I don't. But next time.
But you can go to Rightway Health and Wellness,
Right.
and the XP2 is there, so you can check it out.
Right. And so, yeah, the XP2 is actual machine that's applied to the body in the same technique as manual. You're starting at the exiting point of the lymphatic system, where it dumps into the vena cava, dumps into the circulatory system. And we're working our way backwards so that we don't overload the circulatory system. But manual massage is really addressing mostly superficial, where assisted lymphatic therapy is addressing the superficial and the deep, which is, as you know, Lily, is where your immune system is. Yeah. And so that was my struggle, because I'm nationally certified as a lymphedema specialist, and that's the MLD approach. But I couldn't direct my client's immune system with that approach alone. And that's why I sought out.
You were missing 70 to 80% of the component of it, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Unless you punch them in the stomach.
That might not be well.
No, that would not be good. Okay, so we have Lavenderia from Colombia. She has no idea what we're talking about, but then she asked the question, how healthy is it to drink seawater? Isn't that like a laxative?
It would be like a laxative. It's the toxicity in this world today. So without it being filtered and processed and to pull out the impurities, I would not recommend it.
And I wonder if she's referring to, or they're referring to, a little pinch of sea salt.
Oh, well, that's different, because it doesn't necessarily have the impurities. Now, however, Himalayan sea salt, I don't know if it was you or someone was sharing with me the toxicity, because it's become such a commodity. Everybody's using sea salt now instead of table salt, that, they are digging deeper, and they're scraping off of the surface instead of digging deeper, and it's full of heavy metals and toxins. And so you got to be careful with that as well. And it's frustrating. So I usually refer to Environmental Working Group. They do a lot of the studies on these things. So any product that I'm looking at buying, I will just go to their website and I'll look it up and see what research has been on it to determine if it's a product that I really want to invest in.
Yeah. Well, and this is one last question. Multiple chemical sensitivities. I received this question the last time you were on. What do you say to someone who has multiple chemical sensitivities to an extreme?
Right. Those are the patients I get. And so, and I've only been seeing those for probably the last 5 to 7 years. A lot of it has to do with the fact that their immune system's here and they're so reactive to their environment. Some of it's, emotional. There was always an emotional component. I went through Annie Hopper's training. I did lots of different training on how to retrain your brain so that your body doesn't respond to your environment with its inflammation. Because what happens is that it becomes such a chronic issue, your disease process, especially with Lyme. And there's a lot of these chemical sensitivity patients are Lyme patients. The majority of them are. And so what happens is that their brain says, oh, it's not safe for you to be outside. You may get infected. And so it creates inflammation in your body to keep you in. So sunlight can trigger it. All the foods that you eat trigger it. Sound trigger. I mean, you're just so sensitive to your environment. But it's, is your brain thinking that there's a threat when there's not a threat. So you do have to retrain your brain when you get to that degree of sensitivity to stop that inflammatory reaction. So that's part of it, is the brain retraining program. And then the rest of it is just getting those burdens layer by layer off of your immune system. Because once you do that, then you're not sensitive. You don't have the food sensitivities. You don't have the environmental sensitivities. That doesn't mean we want you to start slathering them back on, because it will build back up again.
Exactly.
But, you can get relief fairly quickly. And especially if you do the brain retraining along with it.
Very good. Very good. Well, I know that you and I can talk forever and ever and ever, but we are going to cut it off because we have both you and I have events that we need to get to. But I really appreciate all of you who tuned in today. Please remember, Dr. Jen, show us your Dr. Jen's Immunoblend. 2 people. We're going to do the giveaway on May 31st. So if you're still listening and you're watching later on or wherever, if you're on, well, podcast is done. So we've already recorded for podcast. So go ahead and text me 407-373-5959. Are you going to send only for the United States?
No, it doesn't matter.
Does it matter? Okay.
Yeah.
So all of you, 407-373-5959. Take advantage of this. It's a wonderful way to try something new and different, see how it responds to your body. So Dr. Jen, you're always so generous. So thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you for watching. Thank you for watching today. Now, remember, we're still giving away a lot of different items for the classroom 10-year anniversary. We're giving away the New Truth Series Book of Revelations. We're giving one away. We gave one already. We're giving 2 away, Book of the Exodus. These are online. I'm giving away 2 coaching sessions. I already gave one away. But all these giveaways are going to happen on May 31st. So make sure you get your chance for that. And also the New Truth Series, I Am the Solution workshop, May 17th through September 17th through 19th. So 407-373-5959, claim your health back. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you, Dr. Jen, for everything that you do.